It's my own journey of my life being captivated by corporate America, actually being addicted to the success that I found in corporate America. I grew up as a preacher's kid and was always determined that I wanted to make a lot of money when I grew up. But I wanted to be generous with it. And so I wanted to give to the church and give to nonprofit organizations. And so God blessed. I found my way into a large corporation, Pfiezer Pharmaceuticals, and my career took off. And I got addicted to the result of that. So as I climbed the corporate ladder, I got more stuff, accumulated more things, and got addicted to the power that came with it and the influence. And unfortunately, and I was giving substantially, but I did not have time for the Lord. And my wife would oftentimes say, your life doesn't match what I know you believe in. But I didn't hear what she was saying. So that was my life inside of corporate America. A turning point for me, Pfizer Pharmaceuticals is based in New York City. And a turning point for me was September 11th, 2001, working for a New York City-based company, and we were living outside of DC at the time. September 11th had an impact on many people around me. And that was one event that caused me to stop and consider the question, is my life having the impact that I want it to have? And so for the first time, I started considering that key question and realized that it didn't, and I needed to make some adjustments. And so God had blessed us with a lot of things, and we had 3 children at that point. And one thing that we realized when we tried to reestablish priorities, set some priorities, we said we didn't want to raise 3 little spoiled rich kids, but we wanted them to really understand that with God's blessings comes responsibilities. And we had some dear friends who had just adopted a little girl from China. And so for a period of about 18 months, as I'm personally wrestling with my life and how I had spent my time, our children are praying that mom and daddy will adopt a little baby girl, a little baby sister from China. And so after a period of time, my wife and I began really listening to the Lord, and we sensed Him leading us to adopt. And so we started that journey, and it went very quickly. It took about 9 months from when we filed our initial paperwork to adopt a little girl from Russia, actually. And as we explored the needs at that time, China, it was becoming more difficult to adopt through China, and the doors in Russia were wide open. And I had just turned 40 years old, and it's like, okay, if we're going to do this, let's get this baby in our family as quickly as possible. So we started that journey, and then it was October of 2003 when we brought Acelia home to be part of our family. When you adopt from Russia, you're required to take 2 trips. And when we received the referral from our daughter, when we received the referral for the adoption, we knew that the child that we were focused on adopting had been in and out of the hospital numerous times with severe respiratory tract infections. The company I worked for had one of the best antibiotics for children on the market. And so I had arranged to take a case of samples to give to the orphanage as humanitarian aid, and had done that by through the channels within the company. And my boss was aware of it. All the people around me were aware of it. It wasn't a secret. But when we returned home with Acelia in October of 2003, 10 days later, I was called into a secret meeting, a surprise meeting, and was told that I was being terminated immediately for bribing the orphanage where our daughter came from with company drug samples. certainly I was caught completely off guard. I knew that that accusation was not true, and so did they. And I was offered a severance package or separation. I was offered a separation agreement worth tens of thousands of dollars, but I had to exchange my silence for that money. I was told that I could not file suit against the company, and I had to sign an agreement that I would not discuss my termination with anyone. And unfortunately, I signed the agreement because with a family now of 6 and a lot of stuff, I had to keep the family afloat, and with no income, I was scared to death. And so I signed the agreement, but I had 8 days with which I could renege. And for those 8 days, I was restless. I couldn't sleep because I felt like I had accepted hush money. And while I certainly had not bribed the orphanage, this time I had accepted a bribe. I had traded the truth for money. And so through this period of time, I realized the truth was not for sale, and I needed to risk whatever it would cost to stand for the truth. And that precipitated a 6-year journey from a U.S. federal, so that started a 6-year journey through the U.S. court systems, from a federal jury trial, 8-day trial, to the Fourth Circuit Court of Appeals in Richmond, Virginia, all the way to the U.S. Supreme Court. It's been exciting to write Taking on Goliath. The book really began as my prayer journal, capturing what God was doing in my own life before he got my attention, then when he got my attention on September 11th, being led to adopt our daughter, and then capturing specific answers to prayer in the adoption journey. One of my favorite quotes is, "Life can only be understood by looking backwards, but it must be lived forward." And so my journey gave me the strength, gave me the courage by looking backwards, seeing God's hand in my life, to continue forward and to take on Goliath. And so the book really came out of my journal, but putting it in story format and in a book format took a lot of time. That's not my skill set, and that's where Russell Media stepped in and helped me form a book from a prayer journal and tell the story, because it is a complicated story. There are lots of twists and turns, and there's a lot going on. And so Russell Media helped me to do that. And so I've been working with Russell Media about 3 years to move this book to the publication, which is coming up September 1st. So we're really excited about sharing it with the reader. My hope is that the book will provide perspective to other people who are caught up in the career and have lost perspective on life. And it's this. Unfortunately, it took something tragic in my life for me to step back and ask the important questions of life. And so I hope that this book will save a lot of people a lot of pain and agony, and really encourage them to look at the meaning of their life and to ask the question: is my life having the impact that I want it to have? Because through this journey, we lost a lot of things, but I gained so much more. And the relationship I have today with my wife and with my children, and the time that I have now to invest in things that are of greater significance, is something I wouldn't trade anything for.
And now you get to invest in some or more things that are significant. You deal with nonprofits.
Absolutely.
Tell me a little about that.
Sure. So through the journey, as God captured my heart for his purposes, I've been able to take what I learned in corporate America, 20 years in corporate America, and with my training in business, I'm able to take those principles and give them at no cost to nonprofit organizations to help them become more effective and efficient in the work that God's called them to, and help them expand their kingdom impact and their capacity to serve others. So it's a joy to do that through Mission Increase Foundation, who I work with, and I really believe that God has prepared me for for this work at this time, and I believe that the timing of the book is, again, his timing, and we're excited to see how he uses that for his glory.
Wonderful. So how's your girl doing?
Acelia is wonderful. She's 10 years old. She's entering 5th grade, and there's nothing she loves more than her family. When we adopted Acelia, I was convinced that we were gonna give her a lot of stuff, and she was gonna have a large home, wonderful vacations, private school education, and God took my ability to provide that stuff away. But we gave her what she really needed most, which was the love of a family. And when Acelia joined our family, she was 13 months old, and having lived in an orphanage her entire life, she was a shell of a child, a beautiful 13-month-old baby, but she had no emotion, and she didn't know how to interact with people. And just within a few months of joining our family, she came to life, and she is one of the most lovable children that you would ever meet, and very different from the child that we adopted. And it's just a testimony of what God's love will do, I think, in any of our lives. It was, and that was probably the most gut-wrenching experience for me, was having my children have to endure what I went through. Seeing their dad on the witness stand in an 8-day trial is not something anyone wants their children to have to endure. But at the same time, it was one of the most encouraging experiences of our life. And I know that it's been one of the most impressionable on Hillary and Bennett's lives, especially my older 2 children. It's the story that they write about when they wrote their college essays, standing for the truth, and the lessons that they learned from their baby sister from Russia. But it was difficult. I'll never forget the day when we were moving out of our big house and moving into a rental. I may not be. So we had sold our big house, and we were moving into a rental. And on the way, as we were packing up, we'd made the last pass through our home, and Hillary was riding with me to our new place, and she looked at me and she said, "Dad," tears were streaming down her cheeks. She said, "I just don't understand." She said, "When my friends move, they're moving to bigger houses or newer houses. Why is it that when we followed God and He called us to adopt, that He took things away from us?" And it's like, sweetheart, I don't know, but I'm going to find out. and that was part of my learning experience. And a key question that I had been asked by my pastor was, "Jim, is this between you and Pfiezer, or is this between you and God?" And that's when the reality set in for me that these were lessons that God wanted to teach me. And through that, I knew they would impact my children, and they have. And that's been one of the most joyous things through the journey, is just seeing, helping my children realize that Jesus is real, and He's for their heart, not for their head. And when we follow Him, it may cost us something, but it's worth it. Yeah, it's great today. Hillary is a rising senior at University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill. She spent the last 2 summers and last fall in Africa, the 2 summers in Rwanda, teaching English as a second language in a village in Rwanda to young children. And she has a heart for missions, a heart for Africa, and we're excited to see. And we're excited to see how God leads Hillary, and a love for orphanages, and just his desire to invest in helping bring other orphans into families, giving them families. Bennett, who is he's a rising sophomore at Virginia Military Institute, loves basketball and he loves the Lord, and he's combined those 2 loves with athletes in action and serving with them, and hopes to coach basketball one day. Hunter's a rising junior in high school, and loves his sister Acelia to death, and it's fun to just watch them again interact and see what God's doing in his life as well. So
Wow.
anyway,
Family's grown.
it is grown. And my wife Ann, at different times over the years, we've homeschooled all 4 of our children. And Acelia's home right now, entering 5th grade. Ann's homeschooling Acelia. And while that's tough at times, we know that's just exactly what she needs. And Ann is a wonderful teacher, and it's just nothing warms my heart more than to see Ann investing in Acelia, and Acelia she thrives on those moments with Ann, sitting there reading and studying and learning. So Acelia loves her family, and we thought we were going to be blessing this orphan, but the blessings have been all ours.